It is our honor to have with us two amazing personalities. One is very much our own inspiration, Dr. Madhu Chitkara, Pro Chancellor, Chitkara University. Creative, curious, courageous, charismatic is Karishma Mehta. Thank you for joining us today. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Karishma Mehta, a youth inspiration who's here with us right here on stage. Please join us, ma'am. Humans of Bombay. Have you heard of it? 2016, Humans of Bombay was founded by an entrepreneurial mind, a person with a lot of jazba, Karishma Mehta, who's right in front of you. We've been watching her, seeing her, reading her posts on LinkedIn, social media. It has been so inspiring. I myself have been going through her interviews, and I never thought that one fine day she'll be here with us. So thank you very much. It's a very distinguished panel with two wonderful, inspiring, humbled, and powerful personalities right in front of us today. She is a student of Bombay Scottish School in Mahim, Bombay, and did her business economics degree from University of Nottingham, UK. That was her education, but that didn't stop her to come into the world and face with her own ideas, her own path she chose. And working as a TEDx speaker, she has been hosting TEDx. She has been working around with a lot of stories which were untold, and then she's trying to create stories around human resilience and excellence. Most importantly, what I could gather in a few days of my deeper understanding of her personality is somebody who is a warrior of humanitarianism, because, she's been funding the education for sex workers in India. That is something so compelling that she needs an applause right now. It takes a heart and a mind on a different tangent to do something for humanity. So both our personalities with us are human crusaders of human good, for human good, because Madhu ma'am is crusading the cause of education in shaping the youth for being better human beings, developing their character and their persona. So it's so appalling here that we have you with us, ma'am. Not only this, Karishma has been very instrumental in funding the medical treatment for bone marrow transplants for children. That is something, again, amazing, something very unique, because that's why we call her Crusader of Humanitarian Causes. So again, round cheer applause for her. So with that note, you could see it in the EV, a lot of personalities, right from our Honorable Prime Minister to actors, celebrities, and I was just asking her who's next, so she's kept the names to her, but I think the next is Dr. Madhu Chitkara right now.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for having me. You guys have a lovely university. I saw a lot of scooters outside, so I said, is there a startup making scooters here? And he said, no, it's just how people travel. But the journey has been 11 years long. I started Humans of Bombay in 2014. I'm still at my first job. I've never worked anywhere else, and this is all I know. So it's been a crash course of an MBA, of a first job, of everything that you learn on the job that could go wrong with running a startup. And there's a lot that goes right, but there are days where it's just like, what do you do next? And as a solo founder, especially, you sometimes look around to look for the adult in the room and then realize, oh, that's me. I got to make the decision. So it's been a journey of a lot of learning, especially through the podcast that we run at Humans of Bombay. I think every guest has added so much value in terms of what they've learned in their lives. And when it comes to impact, we've raised over 16 to 17 crore rupees in the past 11 years for various causes. This is through crowdfunding. Yes. So the idea is that, there's only so much validation, or there's only so much excitement you get when you have likes and shares and comments on a post. But what can you do to really go beyond that and make a difference is what we've always wanted to do at Humans of Bombay. And I'm incredibly proud of the team that works every day to create that. We have 40 people working at Humans of Bombay every single day. And it's I think I'm living my dream. So So I was in college, like you are, and um, I stumbled upon Humans of New York, and I fell in love. I was like, wow, these are people I don't know, but I'm reading so much about somebody that's a stranger, but I feel connected to. How is it possible? It's a dichotomy. And I graduated from college, and I was, I think, the only person who either didn't have a job or didn't have a master's or an MBA admission, right? So I was the outlier in terms of success at that point in time, because once you leave college, that's the expected timeline, right? That you either get a job or you study further, you get an MBA, you get a master's, and I had neither. So the single decision that I took, which I think did me a world of good, is I took a sabbatical. So for 6 months, and I acknowledge my privilege here, is that my parents were supportive of the fact that I admitted that I don't know what I want to do. And I, I was on it. I was like, I don't know what I wanted to do. The options were very clear in front of me. I could apply to like a bank or do something in economics, but that didn't excite me. And I just said I want to pause. Like I just want to figure out what it is that really makes me feel like I want to do this every single day. Because when you start working, you realize that a majority of your time is spent at work. So if you're unhappy at what you're doing, a huge part of your life is unhappy. And that's just not the way to succeed or build something that's meaningful or that you're going to add value to. So I think that singular decision where I just didn't blindly apply to any job. Yeah, so I read a lot, I wrote a lot. I kind of was like making several business plans. I started a mini startup before Humans of Bombay that failed, but taught me so much about what I could do at 21, because I was 21 and I had to get people to take me seriously, which was really difficult. It's sometimes still very difficult when I walk into a room and I'm trying to make a case for why this has to be a certain way. It's not an easy conversation, but I think that was a singular decision that really changed the trajectory of my life, where I said, you know what, I just want to stop and I want to pause and I want to make the right decision. I don't want to make any decision.
Two panelists sitting here with a generation gap. So the students sitting here, you can connect all of you to Karishma than to Madhu, right? Reason being that when I started my life, it was long back. It's a history, because actually we have a generation gap. She is, I don't want to tell her age, but she is very young, maybe younger than me, 25, 26 years. So it's a gap of those years. So when I was in college, how my decision took this, whatever I am today. Long back, I was also having dreams. I wanted to serve the society and I wanted to become a doctor, right? So in our times, it was not 10 plus 2, it was high secondary system. So it was 11 years of education. So I did biochemistry, physics, mathematics, and because I am from a very middle class family and they were into jobs and it was not much of the funding where I should go for the medicine as a profession. So there was a problem, and I just overheard that my mother, maybe on those times, she was very modern at that time also, but the thought was that you have to invest money on boys' education, right? So if he has to take care of our future. The girls, she will be getting married and she will not do anything of that sort, right? So I overheard and I said that why to make them so uncomfortable when they have to invest for my education, and medical was a profession where, so I took the decision at that particular time that I am not going to disturb them. I said, I went to them and I said that mummy mujhe to aam BA karna hai, and then I will do B.Ed, and aap mujhe marriage kar dena. So that was reason being that I never wanted to tell them until today also. I never told them that that was the reason of shifting from medicine to the arts. And when I went to I was born and brought up in Delhi. I'm a product of Maitri College. So went to Maitri College because I was my father was in a government job. I was residing in Netaji Nagar, and it was a walking distance from Netaji Nagar to Maitri College. That is why I took that they should not invest money on the transportation also. So I took that, right, and I went there and I took all the subjects which were of not my choice, sociology, whatever. So I never knew the spellings also for that, because I was a hardcore student who was in sciences. I was a good bio student. आप लोगों में से शायद dissection किसी ने नहीं किया होगा. In our times it was used to be dissection on a tray, and frog was to be dissected, and I was the only one where no blood in the tray was there anytime. So I was great in a medicine, right? So I went there because being a girl at those times. Now it's not happening because it's now equality is given to the kids. They're my destiny. It's not my choice, my destiny. The principal of that college was Miss Arya, and she was a great mathematician. So you know that in Delhi you have to have one department. If 9 students are there, then only that department can work. Otherwise, they will dissolve that department and that department will go to another college. Right? So he was worried about the maths, and 8 students were there. And she was searching for a student who got good marks in mathematics in 11th. And she went through all the mark sheets. She see her commitment. She went through, and maybe she was for me. She was working for me, and she searched my mark sheet and she came to my class. It was 200 students sitting in that arts class. And she said, "Where is Madhu Manik?" So, and I was very notorious student. I used to be बहुत शरारती जैसे आप लोग हो. So I thought that I have done something wrong, but I was just seeing that I have not done anything wrong today, because I was in depression that ये क्या हो गया मेरे साथ, और मैं इनमें sociology पढ़ रही हूँ, which is not my forte. So she came to me and she said, "Come to my office." And she was very strict, used to be very strict. So I went to her office and I said, "Ma'am, I have not done anything wrong." She said, "No, sit down. Why you have not opted for sciences as your future this thing?" So I said that, "No, I'm not interested in this. मेरे parents कहते हैं you do BA and then get married, right?" So she said, "No, you have to sit in this class." And by forcibly, I was shifted to BSc in mathematics honors. No, see, my destiny, BSc mathematics honors. Then I did BEd. Why I was shifted? Because I was to meet my better half. He was also from mathematics, and we were class fellows, and that was a destiny. He is a great academician. Everybody knows about him, Dr. Shok Chitkara, that he still teaches you. And I was also in mathematics, and I never knew that I'm a good teacher. And I was the youngest recipient of in UT administration, Chandigarh, the best teacher award. And when I went to the stage, everybody asked that you are just so young, how you were able to get it. So it was my destiny, and it was not uh, very choice this thing, but maybe sometimes God's wish becomes your wish, and that was all about that. That was a right step which I took, and I think this is the history. Yeah, yes. So 76 I started teaching. Now it's already 48 years of teaching profession, and I'm here. Thank you.
You should teach me. Math is not my strong point at all. It's every time in school or college, my lowest marks always math.
So you should have been my student. People used to say in Chandigarh that the students will fail in Punjabi, their mother tongue, or Hindi, but they will never fail in maths if they are student of Madhu.
Wow.
So it was that. It was not that I was a good teacher like Dr. Shok Chitkara, but I knew that how to come down to the level of the students. I was very jovial, and I used to make maths a subject which is very interesting. So it was my forte, right?
I think the quality of a good leader is how many leaders you are able to create. So leadership in the beginning was very centralized, right? There's one leader, and all of that, the decision making, or there's basically very little autonomy outside of the one central or the co-founders. But I don't think that's the way to go, because people and people who are working on the vision and mission with you feel extremely empowered when they have their own accountability, when they can make decisions in their areas of expertise. So we have a lot of departments at Humans of Bombay. There is no way I know how to edit a podcast video. It's zero. Like, I know how to interview, I know how to ask questions and get the answers, but there is a video team who does this every day. So for me to make a decision on their behalf is just counterproductive. So there is a head of department who's making decisions basis his knowledge and his expertise. So you just let it happen, right? And that's across the board. So I think a leader who listens, a leader who relinquishes control and says that it's cool, like, you guys have got it, and let's just go with whatever decision you're making, is a very big one. And the third one is, how many leaders are you able to create? So the average age at Humans of Bombay is 25. And some of our my colleagues have joined straight out of college, so from job one to the age of 25 or 26. So and they say that there is literally nothing that we have not learned here, because at Humans of Bombay, the one rule we have is that today you can be a content writer, but tomorrow, if you're interested in becoming a human resource manager, it's possible. And we can make that happen if that's your area of interest and if that's a skill you want to hone. Because the one thing that people don't realize is that everybody thinks that as soon as you graduate from college, you know what you want. But that can change. At 21, you may want to be a content writer, but at 24 or 25, you may realize that I actually want to pivot and get into, I don't know, like marketing, right? And that's totally okay. But what's not okay is if you continue to remain mediocre at something because of a decision you made 3 to 4 years ago. So I think having that fluidity within the company, that you can change and navigate roles, has been a big one for us to retain. Exactly, because we've also pivoted. We started podcast 2 years ago. And before that, it was just stories and reels that you see on Instagram. And now this is a whole other beast where some of our interviews run 3 hours long. And also, it's intimidating as a process, right? Like, you probably don't see it on screen, but to sit across the Prime Minister and ask questions requires you to really be there. And at that point, you're not focused on him, you're focused on the 10 men around him who have AK-47 guns. And you're like, okay, what am I supposed to ask here, you know? Yeah. No.
And I think Sumir, continuing her thought, just give them that what was your experience interviewing Moti Saab? Because they all want to know. And you must have judged her age, what she said. Have you judged her age? She said the average age in her company is 25, 24. So maybe
No, I'm not that young, definitely not. But I was 21 when I started Humans of Bombay. Okay, so I interviewed the Prime Minister when I was 27 years old, and we got the interview because I am incredibly persistent, annoyingly persistent. Okay, so I have written to every government official channel, emailed anybody, cold emailed, called any event that I saw. I would be like, how do I do this? And it took 4 to 5 years before that interview came. And when it came, I thought it was a prank, because how do you take something that big seriously, right? And I got an email saying, would you, this is the interview time and the date, and will you do it? I was like, will I do it? I replied saying, sure, like, please call me, because I was really like, I'll show up somewhere and it's going to be some massive like prank and people are going to be like, haha, jokes on you kind of thing. But then I got a call from a private number, and it was the head of social media for the PMO. And we were the first interview that the Prime Minister did leading up to the 2019 campaign. Uh, and we were given a 12-minute slot. So that's the first time I saw a 12-minute slot, right? It's like you usually round off. It's like 10 or 15, but it was 12. And I got there, and so there was a lot of security, obviously. We had to submit a lot of official documents. They called to ask for identification markers. So like, I have a birthmark here. So like, sure, it's your right hand and not your left hand. I said, yeah, it's my right hand, because they check things like that. And I got there, and they checked our cameras. The security process was very lengthy, and then we got in, and they gave us a very closed room. You know, like there was like, the lighting was not great. It was basically not outdoor; it was indoor. And Humans of Bombay is known for like meeting people on the street, stopping people on the street, and getting the real life essence. So I just requested Hirenji. I said, is there somewhere else that we can do the interview? He said, come, let's go see. And then we found this beautiful space where there was just a lawn, the coconut trees, and then the promenade. Yeah. And then you could just see water. And I was like, there is absolutely nothing more Bombay than this. So we must do it here. And so we started doing the setup literally half an hour before, like chairs were being moved in, and then dot on time. So I wrote a LinkedIn post about this where I said that to value somebody's time is to show them utmost respect. There is no excuse for making anybody wait. And as a prime minister, one would even understand if you make a very, very junior like content creator pretty much wait, but 1 minute before time, and he came, and he said, Mehta ji kem cho, because I'm Gujarati. And but I don't speak Gujarati, so I understand everything, but I find it very difficult to communicate. So I was like, oh my God, this interview is going to be in Gujarati and I can't really communicate properly. So then I replied, no. Then I replied, Sab theek hai, sir. So he understood that I wanted to speak in Hindi. And the conversation went on, and he gave us 22 to 23 minutes because he was engaged in the conversation. Yeah, because they would stop me right away, right? Like at 12 minutes, they would be like, that's time. But the Prime Minister was speaking. Sorry? Oh, he did? No, he answered everything. Yeah, there was nothing on my question that was not answered. So, and he's a great orator. But I mentioned this again when I was speaking about it on LinkedIn recently, that to be humble in power is a very, very important quality to have, because the photographer who was working with us back then was Ivan. He was 17. He was yet not an adult. So he was in college, pretty much like just there, but very hungry to work. And he is the one who shot this interview. And the Prime Minister went up to him and said, Kya karte ho, Ivan, this, that, and like asked him all these questions and took out the time to get to know him. And I think that was amazing. Yeah.
Because I always wanted to ask her that it's very difficult to talk to PM of a country, and that too at very young age. I think you must be very fortunate, and God was having all blessings on you.
Yeah, but I was very nervous because it was at this distance. And when you see somebody on like giving speeches and things, like you have a different like image of them, or like, okay, like this person is on, like he's the government, like there's no reach, right? And then suddenly you're sitting next to them and you're like, the imposter syndrome kicks in, like, what am I doing here? So, but thankfully he was really chill and made it a good conversation. So I walked on the stage and he stood up and he said, "Hi, I'm MS." And I was like, "Hey, I know. I'm acutely aware."
In our times, leadership was very vertical. So there used to be a organizational chart, had this, then this, 2, 3 arrows, and like this. But I always believed in the horizontal leadership. Wherever, whatever the person is doing, he should be, he should have all the authorities to work on it. So I never believed in micromanagement. You just mentioned, I will always mention whenever I will talk about my leadership, I will always mention two people which I'm very you can say that for the second person he is very young, so I will not say that I always followed him, but the one which I wanted to mention is Abdul Kalam ji. So you have seen their videos, and one of his videos which I showed in our Karishma, you will be happy to know that we have a very regular leadership summits. It is called CLS, Chitkara Leadership Summit, where we have all the leaders. Now, this time when we did that, it was 150 plus leaders, and all of us go out, we chill for 3 4 days, and then we discuss about the best practices which we are doing in our schools, and then we learn from each other and whatever. So that is, it's a very regular feature, right? But I saw one of the videos of Abdul Kalam ji, and you all must see, and I will request all the students sitting here that we are with you only for half an hour, something like this. So so try to have your mentally and physically in this hall, so that you just learn, because now you are would be leaders. So just see that what we have experienced in our lives, and what you can do in when you will be a leader, right? So you have to see the Abdul Kalam's videos. There is one video where then the per, uh, you have seen Parmanu movie. So he was the leading Satish Dhawan. So he was working under Mr. Satish Dhawan, and he was the lead scientist where that was to be done, and everybody knows the story. So that mission failed, right? And it is in his video, and I will request your deans to show you those videos. It was total failure. There was the press, media, and you know that how media is. Those who know how media is. So they all came there, and Satish Dhawan said, "You wait here. I will go for the press conference." So he went. He said it was a total failure. I am sorry for it. Next year we will come again with this, and you all will be there, and then we will show you our success. Right. So that was just seconds press conference, and he went. He never called Abdul Kalam ji that no, it is I'm a leader, I'm your leader, and I will do that. So I wanted to say the leaders sitting here that what should be our attitude and what I am doing it. And when next year, the next collective year, it was a success, right? And again, the praise was there, and everybody was so happy. They were all in cloud nine, and they said that mm, call Mr. Satish Dhawan. He said, Abdul Kalam, you go. Abdul, you go. Kalam, you go and do the press conference. He said, no, 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 it's a success. Now you have to go. He said, no, you go. And then he did the press conference, and he said, on every platforms, Abdul Kalam ji used to say this, that I was so impressed with the leadership style of my boss, that he said, when this is success, you should go. When there was a failure, the leader should take that onus, right? So one was this, and second, I think you all also love MS Dhoni, because he mentioned it. I love him a lot. My husband should not see, because he's my just like my son, but I adore him a lot. You have seen the difference between his leadership, his captaincy, Rohit Sharma, and Kohli. So I think everybody loves him because of his leadership. He's so calm, cool. That is why we say cool Dhoni. क्या कहते हैं हम? Captain Dhoni. नहीं, cool Dhoni. Captain Cool, right? And he's so stylish. Whatever he do, बाल बिल्कुल गंजे कर लो तब भी smart लगता है, लंबे कर लो तब भी. So I am a great fan of him. Reason being that when there are stress and if the leader is in stress, and if it is on her or his face, the whole team becomes demoralized. So you have seen in the playground also, किसी के बॉल पे छक्का लग जाए वो कहता है, ठीक है. Reaction, there are no reactions. If as a wicket keeper, if he'll take any catch, he's not very excited. So वो ना, मैं जिंदगी का साथ निभाता चला गया, हर गम को खुशी में निभाता चला गया. जो मिल गया उसे मुकद्दर समझ लिया, जो खो दिया उसे भुलाता चला गया. So I think that is his philosophy. And whenever there is, I'm a very cricket fan. So Gavaskar and from Sachin and from Clive Lloyd, I have seen those matches also. You were not at that time born also. So मुझे याद है जब सचिन ने गावस्कर ने सेंचुरी बनाई तो क्लाइव लॉयड ने, क्योंकि ही इज वेरी शॉर्ट स्ट्रेचर्ड, सो उन्होंने देखा कि पब्लिक देख नहीं सक रही, उनको गोदी में उठा लिया गावस्कर को, एंड ही शोड दैट इज अ लीडरशिप. So you have to learn from the people who are showing these type of traits where you can become a great leader. So you have to lead from the front. Whenever there are crises, you have to be front. When there are good deeds done, your team should be in front. So I think this is the best style which I have understood.
I think there's a huge amount of emphasis on staying positive all the time. I think that just accepting that. Yeah. Yeah. So I think accepting that it's always like this, what you just said, that balance, right? It's a bad day. It's not a bad life. As a startup owner, it's like you're in the washing machine, and sometimes it goes to full throttle, and you're like, what is going on? But you know that there will come a day, either tomorrow, either a week later, where it'll balance and it'll stabilize, and then you'll peak again. So I think the way to do it is to just be acutely aware of that no human being has a flat line in terms of it's always there, right? That effectively indicates that you're dead if it's a flat line. But it's up and down, which means you're alive and you're living the human experience with having some things that go your way, some things that don't go your way. But yeah. Yeah. So exactly, right? So what you and I complain about, somebody else would be like, wow, I wish I could have that. So that's just life. And I think just being aware of that and taking it as a bad day and not a bad life has really helped me maneuver some pretty bad days in the company.
I think I am with Karishma that when the patient is in the hospital and when there is the monitor, movies में भी देखा होगा आपने, हो सीधी लाइन आ गई, अब तो ये ऊपर नीचे नहीं जाती. So when it's not going up down, that means you are dead. Well said by you, Karishma. So it has to be up down. Then only there is khata mitha in the life. It never is if it is too sweet, it is sugar. If it is too salt, it becomes painful. So I think maybe my name is just like it, and both of us, we are very thankful to the parents that they have given us so great names that where we will not be tensed. Madhu is always Meetha, Karishma is always doing something great. So I think it is your thought that you are tensed or not. So I am never tensed in my life. So it's a great fact about my personality. Reason being that whenever there is a challenge, I try to find out the opportunity and I learn a lot from that challenge. If there is no challenge, 8-10 दिन challenge ना आए, कोई लड़ाई हुई ना हो किसी से, family में भी हमारा, we have a family business, so we learn a lot, and the worst part to do is the family business, right? And then your egos there, your this thing, and being a lady also, so sometimes there is a challenge. But we take this as a, I think maybe 90% of the ladies take it as an opportunity. And since this question is asked from two ladies, she has maybe not experienced that, but for ladies, God has also compared us with Prithvi. So Prithvi is कोई सबका बोझ सहाती है, लेकिन it's Prithvi is Prithvi. So I think that is inborn quality in ladies. I'm a great storyteller. I think well framed question. It was not out of syllabus तो नहीं था ना, हमारे को पता भी नहीं था. But it is a good thing that I'm a very great storyteller because and आप पूछोगे कैसे? I'm a mathematics teacher, and how come that in mathematics you tell the stories? But there are always stories for every incident. There is a story, and if you make it mixed masala, then it becomes, and you get many outcomes from the storytelling. I always tell this to everybody, that when you go to planes and you travel, I think now everybody travels. Railway से ज़्यादा आप plane पे travel करते हैं. So the air hostess will come and she will tell that oxygen mask आएगा, then there will be a problem, and you first put the oxygen mask on your face. If your kid is also with you, then do it that. First save yourself. So I used to enjoy that moment a lot. So every time I travel, and I'm a well-traveled person, and every time when she will be telling, I feel very fascinated at the expressions which she gives, right? Normally the ladies are there. I say. So I just borrowed it for telling a story to everybody whenever I am on a women forum and they wanted to ask my story, that how it was, how challenging it was being a lady and something like that. So it's very normal questions asked from the ladies. People think that हम बहुत बेचारे हैं तो हमसे पूछा जाता, आदमियों से नहीं पूछते, but आदमी ज़्यादा बेचारे हैं. So हमारे से पूछा जब जाता है तो then I always say that I always, and this is a story given to them, and then it had a great impact on the people, those who were listening to me. So I always said that first of all, love yourself, love your health, love you, because normally 90% of the ladies don't take care of themselves. They will say the husband should take the proper food, then the kids, and then everybody in the family, and then if time permits, then I will take the breakfast, or otherwise it's okay. But we never take care of ourselves. But this story tells that first of all, in any of the conditions, if you are not healthy, if you are not safe, then you can't take the stress of the family also, right? So this becomes a story for me, and at every platform I tell this story to every lady, that try to pamper yourself. And मैं एक बात हमेशा बोलती हूँ कि I love movie Jab We Met, because I love Geet a lot, because I am my favorite. So that becomes a storyline for all the ladies, for all the girls, those who listen to me. And so these are the small stories which we tell them just to change their personality traits. So I think it's a great impact when you are talking to them and just giving them, okay, तो ना हम आते हैं, ये नहीं करो, वो नहीं करो. So normally in my age, people do, number of don'ts are greater than number of do's. हम ये नहीं कहेंगे ये कर लो, मैं आप सबको ये कहूँगी ये नहीं करना, वो नहीं करना. Reason being that we are not giving you the anecdotes that what will be good for you and what will not be good. So for that we need stories. पूरी रामायण, पूरी महाभारत स्टोरीज पे बेस्ड है ना. So I think that all the बड़े जितने भी हमारे ग्रंथ हैं, that is based on the stories. So if you tell them the stories, it will impact them a lot. So teachers को भी request here, yeah. So I think he does it. The happiness officer, I think, does very regularly this. So I think that is that should be our teaching style, teaching pedagogy, where we should tell the stories instead of giving them the concept. So I think it's
So I've built a career on storytelling. We've told 6,500 stories so far, and yeah, and ultimately we're all stories, right? Like everybody sitting on the stage. At the end of life, you will be a story, and that's how you look at it. So in the present tense, you're living your story. So what is it that you want to have in it? What is it that you want to have out of it is entirely in your control, and you're the author. And when it comes to storytelling, I think it's a extremely powerful medium, especially today when there's so much on digital, on Instagram, on LinkedIn. Just generally the attention span and how fast-paced our world is. Stories is what reminds you to be in the present, to be inspired, to know that you can overcome. Why do we talk about the greats, right? Mahendra Singh Dhoni, our Prime Minister, the late Ratan Tata sir. It's because their story had the ability to touch you. So we speak to people within the Humans of Bombay community on a weekly basis to understand what it is that they like or don't like. The number one thing that people feel when they read a story of another human being is that I'm not alone. There is a sense of connectivity that if this person somewhere across the world is going through this, I'm not alone in whatever it is that's happening in my life today. And that is the only instrument to do that is a story. I don't look at it as a balance. So I don't think I work a day in my life, to be very honest, because I just love what I do. I wake up on a Monday morning excited to go to the Humans of Bombay office and create something that truly adds meaning. So, and there are so many debates that go on about work-life balance and all of those things. I'm just of the very firm opinion that if you find what you love, you will not work. And then there is no need that I have to bifurcate this and that. It just happens. You're in the flow. And my only advice to you guys would be that truly find what that thing is and don't expect to find it in the get-go. We're human beings, we evolve. Today, you may feel extremely passionate about something because you're at this time, at this stage. But 3 to 5 years later, that could be something else, and that's okay. So don't hold yourself accountable and responsible. There are people who have found their passion in their 40s, in their 50s, in their 60s. And that continues to happen till today. Burger King was a product of something of a founder's vision in his 60s because he wanted fast food. The same with McDonald's. There are so many examples of people who continue to find things at a much later stage in life. Putting so much pressure on yourself to find it at like 20 and 21 is just absolutely ridiculous. So my only advice to you would be is that don't stop until you find that thing that you can do every single day and you'll just be in the flow and it doesn't feel like work.
For everybody, maybe for the girls, now it's not different because both of them work together, and lucky that you are into this age where boys are also working with the home duties also. So what I think you should do, all of you should do, that when you are at work, it's not well said by her that work-life balance is not a great concept nowadays, because you are working sometimes on your own, and you're working 24 hours a day, so day in day out, so you're working. The balance is whatever you are doing, whether you are at home or whether you are at work. So whatever you are doing, don't intermix work with your family, right? So you should have it's very difficult, but I did that. It's very difficult to switch off and switch on the button. When you are work, normally what happens? You intermix your two jobs. When you are at work, you will be worried about your family. Normally the ladies. मेरा बच्चा छोटा है, उसने खाना खाया होगा नहीं होगा, हस्बैंड को खाना मिला होगा नहीं मिला, family है. So that work, that is in your subconscious mind. It goes on that you become very guilty. You are guilty that you are not doing the responsibilities, being a lady. My kids are taken care by a creche people, or somebody else is taking care of them, or the food is ordered by Zomato or somewhere else. And when you are at home, since you have not done good at your job, when you are at home, then you are again guilty that my job, I have not done the full justice to that. So don't do that. There is one cosmic power which takes care of, if you are taking care of your job very passionately and very religiously. So if you, I always say that if you love Saraswati, Lakshmi will follow. But if you love Lakshmi, like Saraswati may or may not follow, right? So you have to, Saraswati is work. So you have to respect that work also. Because of that, your family is all fed well. right? And because the family is comfortable, that is why you are comfortable in your job. Now it's very very difficult because it's that you have to be comfortable here, you have to be comfortable. So when I started my job, I was just 20 years old, and when I was 23, my both the kids were born. So I was so young, and there was no help from the family, no help from the in-laws, and no help. I was earning 300 rupees a month, and at one point of time, we both were not. We were both were probation, and we were out of the job, and we took वो काला चना नहीं होता भुना हुआ. So for 1 month we ate that, but we were very happy. Reason being that we were doing justice, and we know that God is there to give us the fruits. Now, from that 300 reaching here, it's I also failed to. People have written my case study in Washington Business School that how from a kitchen to this place. Reason being that I always worshipped my job, and I told my kids, I told Mohit, Mansi कि आप क्रश में बाहर खड़े हो. Your mama is working, and at that time I did PhD also, and with the job with my two kids, and I told them that I don't have sufficient money to have luxury for you. So you are comfortable. I am doing it for both of you, your future. And they were okay. Mama, ठीक है, हमें कुछ नहीं चाहिए. So you have to make them partner with your job. You are not doing job. Your whole family is doing job. So they have to understand that if you are doing job, your husband, if husband is working, the wife should know that there are some constraints in the job. So you have to support them. And so I think it's a vice versa. So I think you have to keep the balance, and if you will respect your job, your family will respect the job. If you say कि हाँ हो सकता है मैं जल्दी आ सकता हूँ कैंपस से, या मैं जॉब से जल्दी आ सकता हूँ, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, मैं बंक कर सकता हूँ, so then they will also take the liberty, and you will not be doing justice here and there, because they will lose in respect for you. बच्चे भी कहेंगे पापा तो ऐसे ही हैं, ऑफिस से ऐसे ही जल्दी आ जाते हैं. And then that respect, which is very difficult to maintain that respect. So I always respected myself. I always loved myself. I always pampered myself. That is why all the people in my family pamper me a lot. Reason being that I have that mindset. No, you should not take me granted. So I have also my respect. If I'm doing job, I'm not guilty, right? So it's for the family only. So I think we all have to make the balance.
No, I agree. I feel like, especially as women, not that I have kids or a husband, but you feel guilty. Like I miss a lot of family events just by default of the amount I travel. And it happens, right? And you tend to feel that guilt that I'm not going. But I think somewhere you have to swallow it and understand that it's both. It's just something that you have to kind of take with a pinch of salt and get everybody on board that this is the life I have chosen, and it's a decision, Yeah.
But I think, Karishma, you are very lucky to be born in this era. Reason being that you have online everything. So on Facebook, FaceTime, you can see the event happening.
Yeah.
So in our time, so it was all lost.
Yeah. So then you
I
catch
think-
up with photos and videos and things like that. Yeah. So that's definitely an advantage. Yeah.
A very good afternoon to the entire panel. My name is Shruti Bansal and I'm from CSC department. I'm currently in third year. So first of all, thanks a lot for your guidance and sharing your thoughts with all of us. So ma'am, I would like to ask you, how do you see the role of digital storytelling in India's evolving cultural and social landscape?
So I think it will only deepen because, like I said, right, like now you have 1 second reels. It's there's no connection. I feel like even whether socially or culturally, storytelling will be very, very important because how is it that people are learning? How is it that people are absorbing from digital? because life is not about like just trending reels and things like that, right? So anything that you want to talk about now, you think of, say something is going wrong, you think of digital first and say that I'm going to post my story. Assume that your baggage has been lost for a month. What is your course of action after you have no resolution? That I'll tell my story, that this is my story and this is what's happened, and that becomes your centerpiece of the narrative to actually get a solution. So storytelling is here to stay, and it has stayed. Like we were mentioning earlier, our two ancient texts are stories, and we derive from them, and that's not going to change anytime soon. I think for centuries to come, people will read and learn from the stories today. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You go back, you come. It come back. Your cocket.
So, good afternoon, ma'am. My name is Kumardeep Singh. So, I'm from third year CSC. So, I want to ask that the Humans of Bombay, this organization, this has
Sorry?
raised so many funds for the. So, ma'am, how this system of generating the funds work, and plus, ma'am, how this has changed the life of the people.
Thank you. It's a great question. Thank you for that. So it's crowdfunding, right? So say, and this is again to your question, Shruti, which is how does storytelling play a part? When you read a story and you're like, I really want to help this person, the only way to do it is if there is a platform that's aggregating that. So we post a link to the person's story who you're reading, so you can go and directly contribute to that. I'll tell you a short story. I've spoken about this before. Is the story of Ali Bhatt. So Ali Bhatt was wrongfully imprisoned for 23 years. 23 years for a crime that he did not commit. Now, we all come from a certain level of privilege where we will have access to lawyers and to pay that money to kind of fight your case. He did not. And he just was moved from one jail to another jail. Years languished. He lost both his parents when he was in jail. The love of his life got married to somebody else. Basically, he was like, it's a life not worth living. And then by some miracle, a lawyer who really believed in his story and said that, why are you in jail? And the bench of the judges moved and they placed his case before them and they said, yeah, he's innocent, and released him. After 23 years in jail, the Indian government has paid him 0 rupees in compensation. 0. So when he comes out of jail, life has changed around him. He has no sense of worth. He doesn't know what to do. He has no sense of profession. So we told a story in 6 parts and we told our audience exactly what had happened. And we asked to raise money. In 12 hours, 12 or 24 hours, I'm not sure, half a day or one day, not more than that, we raised 23 lakhs for him for the 23 years that he spent in jail. And after that, he set up a little shawl store in Kashmir and he's married. He found love at 49 and he's very happy. And he called us and invited us to his wedding and said, you must come. And then he said something, so we got on call with him and to tell him that we've raised this money for you. And he said, log itne bure nahi hote. And that this is a man who suffered 23 years in jail. So if he can have that perspective, I think all of us can have that perspective.
A very good afternoon, panel. My name is Ushita Kapoor. I'm from MBA Marketing. So my question to you, ma'am, is reflecting on your experience with working with Humans of Bombay, what advice would you give to someone who's just starting out with a very similar project or have wants to work with a very similar platform as yours? What advice would you give to that person?
So you want to start something in storytelling? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so that's amazing. Congratulations. So my only advice to you would be is that get used to rejection and no's, because I think that's the hardest part to crack. So when we started Humans of Bombay, I would go on the streets and ask people, hey, can you tell me a story or can I talk to you for a few minutes? And it's Bombay. Nobody has the time. They would just be like, no, like no explanation, no answer. When you take rejection in your stride and really keep to it, and then go one step further to really go deep into that person's story and not just look at it as an interview, but really look at it as a conversation where you listen. I think it'll solve about 50% of your problems off the bat, because you'll be amazed when you listen and just give people the space to answer. They can talk for very long. I can run a podcast for 6 hours if you tell me today. And the key and the secret ingredient is to just listen. So that would be my advice.
Thank you so much.